Let's Play Lawn Darts, the travel version, will not be seen at this time. So why not watch this video, which is much more on target. This is GTV, Pint-Sized Power. Sonic the Hedgehog. Of course, Sonic doesn't need any real introduction beyond that. We all know who Sonic is, his games, and the legacy behind them. But when I say Sonic the Hedgehog, most people automatically think of the original 16-bit game and the path it forged. While that game is very noteworthy, it's only half the story. Because while the Genesis and Mega Drive took center stage, a second Sonic adventure also conquered the world in 1991. Though it gets remembered less often, this scaled-down Sonic has a tale to tell too, one just as epic as its bigger brother. Stay here for the Sonic 8-bit story. Back in June, I made a video chronicling the development, release, and cultural impact that the first Sonic the Hedgehog had, way back when, 30 years ago. It's over an hour long and filled with great info from start to finish, so I recommend that you take time to watch it. However, there was so much information that a lot of it had to be left out, and much of that was about the 8-bit series of Sonic games, which were sold right alongside the 16-bit version, offering game fans an opportunity to experience Sonic in a different format, and give the other Sega machines some ammo against Nintendo in the all-important console war of the early 1990s. I won't rehash the complete backstory of how Sonic was created. The key points of Sonic's origin come from Sega's attempt to uproot Nintendo from the market leader position of the video game industry in the United States. Sega had the upper hand in many ways. The 16-bit Genesis was released in 1989, before Nintendo's 16-bit Super NES. By the end of 1990, Sega had the best-selling next-gen machine in America. Nintendo was finally ready for 16-bit in the US in 1991, with an all-new Mario game in tow. But Sega read the stitches on the fastball, and before the Super NES was even available, Sega dropped a bomb on the industry, delivering a game that was faster and louder than Mario, starring a character with more attitude to boot: Sonic the Hedgehog. Not only that, Sega cut the price of the Genesis and gave Sonic away for free. All of it led to Sega securing 60% of the market following the 1991 Christmas season. While the 16-bit Sonic was entering development, Sega, in Japan, was preparing to release its own portable game machine, the Game Gear. Compared to the Game Boy, the Game Gear was better in nearly every regard. In essence, the Game Gear was a portable Mark III or Master System, Sega's 8-bit TV game machine. The chance was there to steal customers away, but only if it had the right games. In the winter of 1990, as Sonic the Hedgehog was still in the early design stages, it was decided by CEO Hayao Nakayama that Sonic must appear on the new Game Gear, as well as the Master System, which by 1990 was discontinued in Japan, but active elsewhere, and in many regions, still very popular. Because of the Game Gear's similarity to the Master System, existing games could easily be ported. Or in this case, Sega could create an all-new game, with 2 separate versions. During the development of Sonic, it was all hands on deck at Sega. In fact, because the effort put into the 16-bit Sonic was so huge, Sega had to outsource the 8-bit project. An unlikely name would step up, a man by the name of Yuzo Koshiro. Semi-famous for composing soundtracks, yet having never developed a game before. Would this unlikely choice bring Sega the results it was looking for?
Sonic the Hedgehog runs, jumps, moves, and spins at supersonic speed. And now, he's loose. He's a burst of speed, a dash of fun, a mischievous streak. He's everywhere. Because now, he's on Game Gear. And best of all, Sonic's free when you buy Game Gear. But hurry, he's moving fast. Sonic the Hedgehog from Sega.
Watch The American Mega Drive, or The Origin of Genesis, now playing on GTV. Yuzo Koshiro was a musician who was known for the soundtracks to Dragon Slayer 4 and Ancient East Vanished, published by Nihon Falcom. These weren't his only efforts, and you'll find his work across several classic PC and TV games from the 1980s. His first composition for Sega was The Revenge of Shinobi, released in December 1989. During that game's development, Yuzo offered to produce complete games, not just the soundtrack. His wish was granted, giving the task of bringing Sonic to life on the Game Gear and Master System, a character no one had yet heard of, and on a machine no one had yet played, and on another no longer available in his home country. Sega didn't offer contracts to individuals, only incorporated businesses. This forced Yuzo Koshiro to create a company of his own, to do business with Sega and develop the game. He invited his family to join him on this venture. His mother, Tomo, would run the office. His sister, Ayano, would design artwork and help with game development. Yuzo, of course, would create the music. Yuzo chose the company name based on his family name, Koshiro, which can also be read in Japanese as Kodai. In English, this word means ancient, a perfect name for the family business. On April 1st, 1990, the company was incorporated in Japan, and work on an 8-bit Sonic was officially underway. The development was unusual compared to most games. Sonic was meant to be a flagship character for Sega, and the 16-bit version was intended to be a breakthrough game. If that expectation was met, then the 8-bit version must also follow suit. However, the team who worked so hard to craft Sonic were busy doing just that, while Ancient was off to the side, doing things on their own, outside of Sega. Despite this, Ancient was not given free rein. The game had to follow the same rules as the 16-bit Sonic, in regards to character design, plot, and of course, speed. The rest was up to the technical limits of the Game Gear and Master System. The development team was quite small. Only the Koshiro family, along with one programmer and graphic designer to assist. Ayano Koshiro would direct the game and design the graphics, based on the plans handed down from Sega. Although Ancient utilized many things created by Sonic Team in their work, only Masato Nakamura would receive credit on the game. Yuzo and Masato worked together on the score, with Yuzo rearranging some 16-bit themes and creating new ones as well. The final product was something not often seen in the gaming world at the time, an alternative version of the 16-bit Sonic that felt the same, but was still different. It was not a scaled-down port of the same game, giving the player the same experience with a less impressive look. Instead, the 8-bit version played to the strengths of Sonic that still worked well on the Game Gear and Master System. The 8-bit story was the same as the 16-bit one. Dr. Robotnik has conquered South Island, stolen the 6 Chaos Emeralds, kidnapped all the animals, and encased them into machines called Badniks. It's up to Sonic to save the day. Core game mechanics are also the same in the 8-bit version. Sonic can roll up into a ball for attacks. He can use forward momentum to gain speed. Rings are a source of energy for Sonic, while different power-ups are found in monitors scattered across each zone. But from there, differences start to appear. If Sonic takes a hit while holding rings, he loses all of them and cannot regain any. 100 rings gives Sonic an extra life, but after a 1-up is earned, the counter resets to 0. Finishing the act with 50 to 99 rings will grant Sonic access to the Special Zone, which has been completely redesigned, with Sonic bouncing around a ring-filled room. Something like a pinball machine. The Chaos Emeralds are no longer in the Special Zone. They are now found hiding somewhere in each of the 6 zones. Collecting all of them will result in the smog above South Island disappearing. Bonus points are given for each Chaos Emerald after finishing the game, along with other challenges you can complete, such as getting all the 1-up monitors or playing all the special zones. New stages were added, while others were removed. The Bridge Zone, Jungle Zone, and Sky Base Zone replaced Marble Zone, Spring Yard Zone, and Starlight Zone. Some areas scroll automatically, increasing the challenge. Checkpoints are now placed in monitors, and the third act of each zone is now simply a battle with Robotnik, and without the help of any rings. The zones retained from the 16-bit Sonic have different level designs and music, except for Green Hill Zone, which keeps the same BGM. A small point, but an important one to show how Ancient handled the directions given to them, Sonic sings during the game's ending credits. Sonic was planned to have a band in the original character designs, but it was one of many things that never got implemented. The American Sega offices said no to a singing Sonic. Perhaps Ancient never got the memo. There are a few differences between the Master System and Game Gear games on top of that. The Game Gear version has a smaller resolution, making it easier for Sonic to fly off screen. Because of this, warning markers are placed in areas where Sonic might get a little too fast. Sonic's sprite is thinner in the Game Gear version, which also has different shading in some areas, and a few levels have been adjusted to make navigating the smaller screen easier. The Master System version has a larger scope of view and is a bit more difficult. Lastly, the packaging would be different, as the Master System version looks more similar to the one on the Genesis and Mega Drive, while the Game Gear version reflects the unique attributes found in that game. After over a year in development, the games were ready to roll in the final months of 1991. What would the world say about a scaled-down Sonic? Watch the Sega Solar System, now playing on GTV. The 16-bit Sonic the Hedgehog was first released in the United States on June 23, 1991. Backed with a huge promotional campaign and given away for free to all new Genesis owners, Sega made certain that everyone knew the most famous hedgehog in the world. The Master System version was released in October 1991, while the Game Gear version would arrive afterwards. In the US, the Master System wasn't the market leader in the 8-bit era, not even a close second. It trailed behind the Nintendo Entertainment System and Atari 7800. In its final days, Sega did give it some more support. Through the Power-based converter and the redesigned Master System 2, most Sega fans were aware of the 8-bit machine, with some taking the plunge after having a Genesis first. The gaming media gave recognition to Sonic for the Master System upon release. GamePro magazine covered the game in their December 1991 issue with a score of 22 out of 25. The review noted that while most people would go for 16 bits, the 8-bit Sonic is done well, being the fastest 8-bit game you'll ever see, and for those who still only had a Master System, the game was worth waiting for. Sonic the Hedgehog would be the final Master System game in America, and a great way to go out. The American version wasn't produced in large numbers, and in Japan, it wasn't even released. But in the rest of the world, the Master System Sonic was anticipated and welcomed upon release in November 1991. Computer and Video Games magazine gave Sonic on Master System a score of 90% in their December 1991 issue. The review discusses the elements that make this game so different from that on the Mega Drive, saying it might be worth investing in a power-based converter. In the February 1992 issue of Super Game from Brazil, Sonic 8-bit gets a strong review, while noting that a similar version appears on the Game Gear. The article proclaims that Sonic Mania is now in full swing around the world. For the Game Gear version, things went a little differently. Certainly not as smoothly as the Genesis or Master System Sonics. Sonic for the Game Gear nearly missed the Christmas shopping season. In Japan, this wasn't much of a problem. The game was released there on December 28, 1991. In the land of the rising sun, the shopping season extends into the new year, when kids often receive money from their relatives on or after January 1st. In the US, Sonic on the Game Gear followed in the footsteps of the Genesis. At first, for each new Game Gear purchased, a voucher was given out that could be redeemed for a copy of Sonic that would arrive later by mail. For those who acted quickly, the game appeared in mailboxes at the end of January 1992. Once enough copies of the game were available, Sonic was included in the box worldwide and was sold separately for those super early adopters. The reviews of Sonic on the Game Gear were very positive at the time. GamePro magazine reviewed the game in February 1992, giving it a score of 24 out of 25. The review discusses how the Game Gear edition is nearly pixel perfect to that of the Master System, adding that it was amazing that Sega could cram such a game into the tiny confines of the Game Gear. Go magazine from the UK also gave a positive review in January 1992 with a score of 93%. The reviewers were amazed at the depth the game had, saying Sonic was blindingly fast, more difficult than the Mega Drive version, and more than anyone could have expected or even hoped for. The 16-bit Sonic was clearly the centerpiece of Sega's 1991 lineup, but they also proved that all of its hardware family could accommodate their new breakout star. The Genesis and Mega Drive Sonic the Hedgehog made history. But what was the legacy the 8-bit Sonics left behind?
E agora, também no Master System, Sonic, o porco-espinho supersônico e jogo do ano nos Estados Unidos. Sonic no Master System.
Quero ver se você é rápido!
Uma ideia supersônica da Tectoy.
Watch The More You Know Gaming, Sega Game Gear, now playing on GTV. When people bring up Sonic the Hedgehog, most will refer to the original Genesis version, or its sequels, that helped propel Sega to the market leader position in the United States during the 16-bit era. But the 8-bit Sonic series was equally influential, leaving its mark on the industry in several ways. After 1991, the Master System version was included with the Master System 2 in all regions, except the US and Japan. The game was built right into the machine, no cartridge needed. In places like the UK, Australia, and Brazil, the Master System continued on for several years, with each new owner starting out on Sonic's first 8-bit adventure. The same goes for the Game Gear, as the original Sonic 8-bit game was the first experience many game fans had with the portable Sega machine. The popularity of the 8-bit Sonics led to a sequel being released, alongside the 16-bit version on Sonic Tuesday in November 1992. In the markets where the Master System was still in production, an accompanying version was also released there. As Sonic in scaled-down form was so different from that done in 16 bits, there was no Sonic 3 on 8-bit. The third game adopted the name Sonic Chaos. From there, the pathway Sega took with 8 and 16 bits diverted further, exploring gameplay that each machine was most capable of. In all, 6 games from the Sonic series would appear on the Game Gear and Master System between 1991 and 1996. The effort put into having so many quality games on the Game Gear paid off. Just like the Genesis, the Game Gear beat the Game Boy by surpassing sales in dollar amount in 1993. A high watermark for the company, where its TV and portable game lines were #1 in America. All of the 8-bit games were outsourced, as opposed to being developed by Sonic Team. Sonic 2 and all further games were developed by Aspect, which began operations in 1991 specifically for the development of Sonic 2. In addition to 5 games in the Sonic 8-bit series, Aspect produced multiple games for the Game Gear and Saturn, later developing games for the Nintendo DS. Yuzo Koshiro continued operations under the name of Ancient, alongside his sister Ayano, while working independently at the same time. He became best known for his work on Streets of Rage and Shenmue for Sega, and dozens of multi-platinum games beyond that. And though it's been a long time since 1991, the original 8-bit Sonic has not faded away. The game has been re-released in multiple Sega and Sonic compilations, often as an unlockable Easter egg. During the wave of Mini-Mania in the 2010s, the 8-bit Sonic had one more day in the sun as one of the games featured on the Game Gear Micro, complete with replica packaging from when Sonic was given away with the Game Gear for free in Japan. All of this came forth from that very first 8-bit adventure in 1991, leaving behind a legacy equal to the 16-bit Sonic, one that may not be as recognized, but nonetheless important.